It happened on a Sunday afternoon, the kind of day where laughter should fill a house, not cruelty. My son Ethan was only 8. His laugh was bright, high-pitched, and unfiltered, the kind of laugh that made strangers smile. But in my parents' home, joy was a crime. Rachel, my sister, sat on the couch scrolling through her phone, her nails tapping against the glass. Ethan was in the corner, stacking blocks, giggling at his little creation collapsing over and over. His laughter bubbled up, uncontainable. "Can you shut him up?" Rachel snapped suddenly, glaring at me. "That noise is giving me a headache." "He's just playing," I said softly, pulling Ethan closer to me. "He's not hurting anyone." Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments from where are you watching this video. But Rachel wasn't done. She stood, walked over with that entitled smirk she had since childhood, and crouched down beside him. "You think you're funny, huh? You think anyone wants to hear you?" Ethan, sweet and clueless, only giggled harder, clutching his block tower like it was a trophy. And then it happened. She grabbed the toy from his hands, shoved him back, and when he laughed again, she struck. Her hand came down across his mouth, hard and deliberate. I heard the crack before I saw it. His giggle turned into a scream. Blood trickled down his lip. One of his small front teeth lay on the carpet like a cruel trophy. I froze for a split second, then lunged for him, scooping him into my arms. He was sobbing, clutching his mouth. My heart pounded so violently I thought it might explode. "What the hell is wrong with you?" I shouted at Rachel. But before she could answer, I heard it laughter. Not from Ethan, from them. Mom leaned against the kitchen counter, arms crossed, her smile sharp as a knife. "What did you expect? He's just like you, useless." Dad chuckled from his chair and shaking his head. "Leeches raise leeches. At least someone's teaching him discipline." Rachel smirked, flicking her hair back. "Maybe he'll learn to stay quiet now." I stared at all of them, stunned, my son trembling in my arms, his tooth in my hand, his cries muffled into my shoulder, while the people who were supposed to be family treated it like comedy. "You're monsters," I whispered, my voice shaking. But Mom only rolled her eyes. "Oh, spare us the drama. You should be thanking Rachel for doing what you can't, shutting that brat up." Dad's voice boomed, cruel and final. "You should be grateful we even let you in this house. Don't forget, you don't belong here. Neither does he." My knees went weak, but my grip on Ethan only tightened. I carried him out of that living room, out of the house that felt less like home and more like a cage. Behind me, their laughter echoed. The sound was so toxic, so poisonous, it burned into my bones. Ethan's small hand clutched mine, his swollen lip trembling as he whispered, "Mom, why do they hate us?" I kissed his forehead, holding back tears. "They won't always win, baby. I promise you they won't always win." That night, as I cleaned the blood from his mouth and placed his broken tooth into a napkin, I stared at it for hours. It wasn't just a tooth. It was a reminder, a symbol. They had broken him to break me. They wanted me to accept it, to crawl, to nod like it was normal. But in that moment I made a vow. They thought they had power because they laughed at our pain. But soon, I'd make sure their laughter turned into begging. I wouldn't just fight back. I would crush their future. I didn't sleep that night. Ethan finally cried himself into slumber beside me on the couch, his tiny chest rising and falling unevenly, his lips swollen, his missing tooth leaving a raw gap that would mark him for months. But me? My eyes stayed open, burning into the ceiling. Every echo of their laughter replayed, twisting tighter around my ribs like a vice. How could a mother laugh at her grandson's pain? How could a father dismiss his daughter's child as trash? How could a sister smile after spilling blood from an innocent kid? The questions kept pounding, but eventually the answers didn't matter, because I already knew they didn't see us as family. They never had. The next morning, I called in sick to work. I sat Ethan down, held his small hands in mine, and promised him I'd never let anyone treat him like that again. His big brown eyes searched mine as if trying to believe me. I knew words weren't enough. He needed to see it. So I started preparing. First came the small steps. I worked longer hours, taking extra shifts at the local pharmacy where I had been a cashier for months. My manager, a kind older woman, offered me more responsibility. Soon, I was training others, stocking inventory, managing schedules. Every paycheck, I tucked more money aside. Ethan and I didn't need luxuries. We needed freedom. But while I built our safety, I kept my eyes wide open on them. Rachel flaunted her life online like always. Every party, every designer bag, every fake smile next to her boyfriends was plastered on social media. She still had the BMW my parents had practically gifted her. She boasted about living the dream, while debt collected behind her like storm clouds. Mom kept hosting her dinner parties, pretending she was the queen of some empire, but I knew better. Her jewelry was rotating between the pawn shop and her wrists. I even overheard her once in the pharmacy, begging for an extension on a credit card payment, her voice shrill and desperate. Dad still barked like he owned the world, but his construction business was collapsing, jobs were unfinished, workers unpaid, contracts broken. The whispers spread through town. People avoided him at diners, shook their heads when his name came up. They were crumbling, slowly, quietly, and they had no idea I was watching. Every insult they ever spat at me, every cruel word, every laugh at my expense, I held onto it like currency. They thought they threw me into the gutter, but I was building bricks, stacking them one by one, until the wall behind me became a fortress. Ethan grew stronger too. He never forgot what Rachel did to him, but instead of hiding his smile, he wore it proudly, gap and all. I enrolled him in after-school clubs, surrounded him with teachers and mentors who praised his spirit. The more they tried to crush him, the brighter he grew. That gave me strength I didn't know I had. But inside me, something darker was simmering. Because it wasn't enough to survive. It wasn't enough to prove them wrong silently. No, I wanted them to feel what Ethan felt that day, vulnerable, powerless, shaken to the core while the world looked on. And one night, staring at Rachel's latest post, her smug face behind the wheel of her BMW, captioned, "Queen of the Road, losers watch me shine," it clicked. Their future was built on arrogance, lies, and illusions of control. If I pulled one thread, the whole fabric would tear. I began gathering. Public records, tax slips, loan defaults, Rachel's unpaid tickets, Dad's business lawsuits, Mom's pawn slips. All of it was out there, hidden in plain sight, waiting for someone patient enough to collect. And patience was the one weapon they never thought I had. It took months. Every night after Ethan fell asleep, I sat at the kitchen table surrounded by papers, highlighting, organizing, piecing together the puzzle of their downfall. The more I collected, the more I realized they weren't just cruel, they were weak, fragile, living one mistake away from ruin. And I was going to be that mistake. By the time I finished, I didn't just have evidence, I had leverage. I had the kind of ammunition that could collapse their house of cards in a single gust. I closed the binder, my hands trembling, not with fear but with anticipation. They wanted me on the ground, begging like a dog. But soon, they'd be the ones crawling. The day it all came together wasn't planned, it was chosen. By me. I had waited long enough, carried their cruelty long enough. Every page in my binder was a piece of their undoing, and now it was time to flip the table they had forced me under all my life. It started with Rachel. She was the golden child, the untouchable one. Her BMW was more than a car, it was her throne. She bragged about it in every photo, every story, every night out. I knew she hadn't paid a single installment herself. I also knew exactly how many payments were overdue. With one phone call, an anonymous, polite tip to the financing company, I lit the fuse. 2 weeks later, a tow truck rolled up outside her favorite club. People were still streaming out in glittering dresses when the driver hooked her car. Rachel came running in 6-inch heels, screaming, clawing at the door handle. Cameras caught it all, her sobbing, her begging, her rage, the queen of the road reduced to a desperate child in front of everyone. The same sister who once stood over my son, laughing at his pain, now stood on the pavement, mascara running, powerless. But that was just the first domino. Next was Dad. His business, the empire he shoved in everyone's face, was already cracked. I gave it the final blow. Using the paperwork I had collected, I filed official complaints with state regulators and sent copies to every client he'd cheated. Names, contracts, missed deadlines, all spelled out in black and white. Within a month, lawsuits piled against him. His company accounts froze. Workers quit. His phone rang off the hook with angry clients demanding their money back. The man who once sat smugly in his chair, calling my son a leech, now sat in bankruptcy court, sweating through his cheap suit. Mom was last. She loved her image more than her breath. The jewelry, the dinners, the pretense of control. I stripped that from her piece by piece. Copies of her pawn slips, photos of the fake jewelry she wore after pawning the real ones. Her credit card debts, I mailed them anonymously to her circle of friends. One by one, her invitations stopped. Her phone stopped ringing. The women who once gasped at her diamonds now whispered about her behind manicured hands. The three of them, so loud, so cruel, so untouchable, were now cornered, their empire nothing but ashes. But I wasn't done until I saw it with my own eyes. I went back to the house not as the girl they dragged into the street, not as the daughter they called useless, but as the storm they never saw coming. They were all in the living room, pale and defeated. Dad's hands trembled over a pile of unopened bills. Mom's makeup was smeared, her hair undone. Rachel sat slumped, scrolling her dead phone as if she could will it back to life. When they saw me, silence fell like a blade. Dad's voice cracked first. "Why are you here?" I stepped inside, calm, steady. "To finish what you started." Mom sneered weakly. "You think this is funny, watching your own family suffer?" I laughed, low and sharp. "Funny? No. But I remember you laughing when my son screamed with blood on his face. I remember you calling him useless, a leech. I remember you saying I should thank Rachel for teaching him discipline." Rachel's eyes filled with tears. That was just a moment. I cut her off. "No, that was who you are." I reached into my bag and pulled out the napkin I had saved all this time, the one holding Ethan's broken tooth. I placed it on the table, right on top of their stack of foreclosure papers. "This," I said quietly, "was the day you lost me, and this right here is the day you lose everything else." Dad slammed his fist weakly on the table. "You wouldn't." "I already did," I said, locking eyes with him. And then, for the first time in my life, I saw it. Fear, pure, raw fear in their eyes. The same people who once demanded I crawl, who sneered at my son's pain, now sat frozen, powerless. Mom reached out, her voice breaking. "Please, help us." I tilted my head, letting the silence stretch. "Beg." Her mouth opened, closed, opened again. Rachel's tears fell, her hands clutching the edge of the table. Dad's jaw trembled, and then, slowly, all three of them lowered their heads. They begged. For mercy, for help, for me to undo what I had done. But I didn't. I walked out of that house, leaving them in the ruins they built with their own cruelty. Ethan was waiting outside, older now, stronger, his smile still wide despite everything. I took his hand, and together we walked away from the wreckage of people who once called us useless. They wanted us to beg, but in the end, I was the one who made them crawl. And I didn't even have to raise my voice. Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments from where are you watching this video.